your source for everything paranormal. ParaX.
Throughout the ages, history has been altered by word of mouth and the misrepresentation of those who might not have been present when some of the world's most significant events took place. Channelers Barry and Connie Strohm bring through the spirits of those who actually witnessed or took part in these historical events and lets them tell their stories in their own words. Welcome to Channeling History. And now, here are your hosts, Barry and Connie Strohm.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Channeling History. We're the only show where we speak to guests that are past and are on the other side, and I hope we have all our technical things straight tonight. So anyway, we're brought to you every week on Sundays by the ParaX Radio Network. I'm Barry Strohm, your host, and I will be doing the channeling tonight.
And I'm Connie Strohm, your co-host, and I would like to thank you all for tuning into our show this evening. Tonight we'll be talking to the spirit of Stephen Hawking, the famous intellectual and physicist. He was diagnosed with ALS at an early age and is a wonderful example of what a person with disabilities can accomplish. As always, we have questions prepared for our guest, but we also hope that our friends in the chat room will submit some as well.
All right, we always give a small disclaimer when we begin, as we have no idea what the answers are going to be to our questions. So the opinions or statements voiced on our show are the channeled words of the spirits and do not necessarily reflect our opinions, those of the ParaX Network, or those of our sponsors.
If you've listened to our show, you know that Channeling History is very different from other shows. We only speak with spirits that have contributed to historic events, or are holy spirits or archangels. Last week we interviewed the soul of, our former show, we interviewed Steve Jobs. He's the founder of Apple Computer. I was not drinking, folks, I promise you. I'm allergic to alcohol. So anyway, if you missed it, the show is available on our YouTube channel.
Okay, in our future shows, we'd like to interview spirits as recommended by our listeners. So please submit suggestions or questions for our guests, our spirit guests, to our email. It's channelinghistorionparax@gmail.com. That's channelinghistorionparax@gmail.com. If you've listened to our show, you also know that before we channel, we always say a prayer of protection. There's a lot of evil out there, a lot of spirits, and when we open the channel, we want to make sure that we don't have any unwanted visitors. So Connie's going to say the prayer, and we'll begin to channel with the spirit of Stephen Hawking.
God, please grant us your wisdom and protection. Grant us the knowledge that we can handle and keep us safe from all things that will harm us. Keep the messages positive and pure love. Keep us safe from our egos. We ask these things in the light of the seen, the unseen, and the honesty of God. Okay, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for your patience with our problems last week. Would you like to begin with a message?
Yes, I would. I must admit, I was a little disappointed last week when we couldn't get the mics to work, but everybody makes mistakes, and I'm very happy to be back. My life was chosen before I came back. Believe it or not, I chose to come back with disabilities, and I knew that I could beat those disabilities, and I wanted to be a good influence for other individuals that were suffering from problems. Now, I must admit mine was a little extreme, but I did the best I could with it. Thankfully, I had a lot of people around me. They loved me, they helped me, they understood, and they made it possible for me to accomplish what I accomplished. I would hope that when there are other people with disabilities, that they have the same support that I have. I would suggest that any of you out there that know a person with disabilities, that you try to help them. Don't look down on them. People would feel sorry for me, but I was able to accomplish a lot while being confined to the wheelchair. I'm not saying it was easy, but I was determined. I want you to think about helping others. I dedicated my life to trying to set an example for others with problems. Now, you don't have to be in a wheelchair to have problems. You have many veterans returning with PTSD that need help. You have many children that simply need help with their educations. You have homeless people. Look around and try to find people that need help. Helping others is one of the best things that you can ever do. Set an example of helping. Set an example like I tried to set. So that's my little lecture. So Connie, I know you have some questions for me.
Yeah, a few. In life, you had an incredible intellect. Do you continue to have that intellect when on the other side?
Intellect is very different on the other side. You can choose to maintain characteristics that you had in life, and I have done that. I still enjoy speaking with people like Albert. I have the ability when I'm over here to speak with some of the most brilliant people that ever lived. Galileo, for instance, Leonardo. We're all friends. We speak over here and we talk of things. And we watch how humans are progressing. We watch a lot of the things that humans believe. And quite often we laugh at some of those beliefs. We all had beliefs that were not correct. There's no way that any human intellect can comprehend the immensity or the complexity of the universe that surrounds Earth. So, yes, I've maintained what I have. I hope that I will be able to continue to influence people from over here. I appreciate the fact that I can speak to people tonight. Actually, I can speak much more freely than I did when I had to talk through that machine and the computer. So let's hope that I can do a little bit of good with these questions tonight.
I have no doubt that you will. Stephen, if you should decide to reincarnate, will you have the same intellectual abilities that you had in your prior life?
I can't answer that question for sure. I would like to, but it's quite possibly that I'll be asked to come back to do something where I will not need that type of intellectual ability. I know that when I come back, I want to serve. I know that I want to help others, and I want to be able to do the best that I can. If the super intellect is needed for that chore, then I will have it. If not, then I won't.
Could you tell us about your childhood?
My childhood was a little screwy. My parents were eccentric, to say the least. My schooling, I was bored. Believe it or not, I was not that good a student. It was not until I started to get older that I understood what my mind was capable of doing. I started to try to read a lot on my own. The schools literally could not keep up with what I wanted to learn. Believe it or not, it's quite difficult to have an advanced intellect. You find that you're looking down at your teachers because they're basically ordinary people trying to do the best they can. But your mind is solving problems that they're incapable of even asking. So it's not the easiest thing.
Yeah. What made you think of your parents as eccentric?
They were they were very intellectual. They were pretty much like hippies, to say the least. They would do things that to me often didn't make a lot of sense. But they loved me. They tried to do the best they could for me. They were just a little bit different.
How old were you when you were diagnosed with ALS, and how did that diagnosis affect you?
I was in my early 20s. It was devastating. When the doctors told me I had ALS, they also told me that I only had 2 years to live. It really took the wind out of my sails. I thought that if I only got 2 years to live, what's the sense in working or trying to educate myself, because it's simply not going to do any good. My friends encouraged me to fight the illness. They encouraged me to continue with my education, and they encouraged me to live as normal a life as possible. I decided that I would try to learn as much as I could, and I was very, very successful in fighting the illness. I know I surprised my doctors. They thought that I was going to be long dead, but I fought it for almost 50 years. Now, keep in mind that it devastated my body for many of those years. There was a time that the only muscle I could move was in my cheek, but that was right before the end. ALS is a terrible disease. I fought it. I did the best I could with it. And in many respects, I think I beat it.
Okay, you indicated that your illness was part of your life plan. Why would you choose such a difficult life plan?
My guide suggested that I live a life that could affect many, many others. They told me that the combination of high intellect and having a serious disease would allow me to make great accomplishments while not having the ability to make many physical accomplishments. They wanted me to come back to teach others. There is no greater thrill than being able to act as an incentive for others. I also, when I was on the other side, realized that the human life is relatively short. Now, when you're on your side, it seems like it can be very, very long. But I knew that, relatively speaking, the life that I was going to be living as Stephen, that it was going to do a lot of good. I was going to accomplish things intellectually, and that I was going to try to show others with disabilities just what they could accomplish.
Yeah. What would you say to people who have been diagnosed with ALS today?
I would tell them to have faith. I would tell them to make up their minds that they're going to fight it with every ounce of strength that they can come up with. There is a lot of very, very good research being done with ALS. There's going to be a time that there will be a cure. The key for anyone that's diagnosed with ALS is to try to maintain status quo with their health as long as possible. There will be a time that research catches up with the disease. We're trying to influence researchers from this side. We are trying to do the best we can to come up with answers, and they're making real progress. So if you're diagnosed with ALS, try to get some of the new experimental drugs. Try to remain as positive as you can, and try to make the most of your life. If you can hold out long enough, there will be a time that they'll have a cure for it.
Do you think that time is relatively near?
I can't really say. I do think that there's every reason for individuals with ALS to remain very positive.
Okay. What were your views on organized religion?
I felt that there are many problems with organized religion. Many of the ancient writings made absolutely no sense to me. Being a scientist, for instance, I had a hard time believing that Adam and Eve started all of it. I knew that the historical roots of humans dated back hundreds of thousands of years, not just 12,000. And there were many other things. I watched as organized religions tried to influence people so that the religions could gain power and strength. As a scientist, I felt that there were many, many parts of religion that were not accurate. And I also felt that it was very, very difficult to conceive of a universe that was controlled by a God. I guess some of the things that I thought weren't correct, I know they weren't now, but I guess that a lot of people just have to learn these answers for themselves.
Yeah. So at that time, you did not believe in God.
I felt that there was no way to prove the existence of God. I know that now there absolutely is a God, but I lacked the faith that I needed to truly believe that God existed. The more my mind would attack some of the scientific aspects of what was taking place, the more difficult I believed it would be for a place such as heaven to exist, or for there to be a God that had such ultimate power. There's so much that scientists have no clue goes on around them. They have no idea of the dimensional changes that's in front of their nose. There are just so many things that humans do not know at this time.
In the scientific community, are individuals that do believe in God chastised?
Yes, they're often made fool of. Scientists are a very intelligent group, but when it comes to understanding how much they don't understand, they can be a bunch of idiots. I would hope that the more that the scientific community learns, that they learn how much they don't know and how much more there is to learn. I can assure you that some of the things that we felt were realities were absolutely not what we thought.
Were you judged harshly for being an atheist when you crossed over?
Not harshly. I tried to set a good example for others. I did inspire many people that had disabilities, and that was really what I was sent back to do. Now, keep in mind, I did not try to convince others that God did not exist. I felt that he did not exist because I couldn't prove it. I was also smart enough to understand that maybe I just wasn't smart enough to prove that God existed. So no, I wasn't judged harshly for it. They told me that it was one of the major mistakes I made in my life, but I'd done many things that were right in my life as well, and they far overshadowed the judgment for me being an atheist.
What would be the final thing that you would tell the listeners who do doubt the existence of God?
I would tell them, first of all, I'd tell them that they're not correct. I would tell them that I understand just how difficult a concept it is because I couldn't solve the question of the existence of God myself. People that have faith will believe in God. You have to have faith. That's part of what I did not have. The existence of God is absolute, but you won't know that until you return. You can believe it. You can follow the words that were spoken by him or were written down about him. You can do the things that you know are right, and you can live by all of the things that you know his words will lead you to do. I cannot prove it to you that God exists. I can tell you that it does now that I'm on the other side. But I honestly cannot tell you how you can prove it to yourself. If you have faith, then there will be things happen that you should be able to understand could only have happened because God has led the way for you. If your free will overcomes the path of faith, then you will not understand until you return. And for many at that point, they've pretty much wasted their life. Everyone's sent back with a life where they can help others. I tried to do it through overcoming my disability as best I could. It may be that you're simply sent back to try to teach children to understand God, to help the unemployed, to help the people that have no home. There are many, many things that you can do to follow his commands. What it will come down to is you just simply have to have the faith. And we are telling you from this side that your faith will be rewarded.
Can you describe what happened when you passed?
When I passed, I was utterly shocked to see the dimension that was opening up before me. I had read about what people said heaven was like, but I didn't believe it. All of a sudden, I was in this dimension of brilliant colors. There were spirits there of my family that had passed, friends that had passed. I even saw angels. I never thought angels could exist in any way, manner, or form. I was truly surprised when I passed at what was taking place in front of my eyes. Of course, at that point, I didn't have eyes. It was taking place in front of my soul energy. And I cannot tell you to this day how I realized all of the things that were taking place, because at that point I had no brain, I had no eyes, I had no mouth. You have to see this to believe it.
Okay, when in heaven, in what realm do you reside?
When I'm in heaven, I am in the upper sixth realm, and I'm hoping that my past life is going to let me advance into the seventh. I truly chose a very, very difficult life because I felt that it would help me advance over here. And I'm thinking that the positive effects far outweighed what I went through in that lifetime.
Okay. Will you tell us about some of the lifetimes in which you served God before your life as Stephen Hawking?
As you know, all souls return many, many times to an incarnate form. I had lived in the 18th century, and I was a college professor. And believe it or not, in that lifetime, I taught religion. It was a very interesting time. I lived another lifetime in the 10th century. I was a member of the Catholic Church. I was a bishop, and I tried to teach others of God in that lifetime as well. Yes, I know all of you are saying it's very strange that you had 2 lifetimes like that, and then all of a sudden you come back as an atheist. Yes, that was quite That was quite unusual, but it was up to my free will. And with my physical problems and with my association with scientists and my limited understanding of the universe, it just all kind of made sense.
Okay, what would you tell us about heaven?
I would tell you that you cannot comprehend it. I know you hear that every week. I would tell you that it is well worthwhile to live a good life. You truly want to advance in heaven. The rewards far outnumber the disadvantages. I know many people think that a physical lifetime that you want to gain as much wealth and power and enjoyment as you can. But that's pretty much counter to what will let you rise in heaven. So you have to make a decision. Do you want to live a life that will help you fulfill the requirements of your life plan? Or do you want to follow your free will and not follow your life plan, which will result in you not only not advancing, but possibly going to a lower realm? So it's your decision.
Does everyone get along in heaven?
Pretty much. There are people that avoid each other. There are still many dislikes that are carried over from human lives. But yes, people pretty much get along over here. There's no hatred. There's no violence. There's none of the things that pull humans down. So everybody pretty much gets along. But there are dislikes over here, just like there were in their prior lives. If, for instance, if you were killed by someone, when that person comes back, you're going to feel a little bit of resentment towards them. There's no hatred here. And part of the lesson is getting over the dislikes and hatreds that you had as a human.
Who do you associate with on the other side?
I am blessed to be able to associate with some of the greatest minds that ever lived. Albert and I spend a lot of time together. As I said, I have access to the great philosophers. Da Vinci, he's quite a character. There are many, many people that had great intellectual abilities through time. I am blessed with my location in heaven, in the realms, to be able to converse with many of them. I would really be hard-pressed to say who my favorite associate is over here.
Okay. When you're with Einstein, what do you talk about?
I talk about basically how wrong we were in many things that we thought we talked of.
Okay.
Albert thought that he was very good with his E=mc squared. I thought that I was very good with a bunch of the things I conceived of and postulated about. But when we get over here, we find out that we just weren't as smart as we thought we were, and that there's always seems to be an exception.
Okay, we have some questions popping up in the chat room, so I'd like to take care of a few of those. One listener would like to know, what are black holes?
Black holes are immense structures that appear in the universe. They occur when suns are destroyed. Every sun has a limited lifetime. That is the way of things. Just as humans have limited lifetimes, even the greatest suns in the universe will exhaust their energies. What we think of as a black hole is not totally what we are considering through science. There's actually much more to a black hole than anybody at this time understands. There are dynamics of black holes. They emit energies, radiations. They act like these huge vacuums that can suck in planets and even smaller suns. It is very, very difficult to truly understand what a black hole is. I know that I had many theories about them. Some were correct and some weren't. One of these days, humans will be able to understand truly the immensity, the power, and the miracles of what a black hole truly is. All right, guys, let's take a small break here. Let's relax a minute, and we will be right back with Stephen Hawkins.
Don't go away. Channeling History will return right after these brief messages.
In order for the light to shine so brightly, the darkness must be present. Tune in every Monday at 10 o'clock. The Dark Sun Rising on the Para-X Radio Network.
Hi, this is Marla Brooks from Stirring the Cauldron. Thursdays are a great night on the Para-X Radio Network. We start off the evening with Journey into the Light, Chapter 3, with your hosts, Psychic Little T and Tabby Cat Gash at 7 p.m. Eastern. Then, on the first and third Thursdays of the month at 8 p.m., it's Tango and Friends, hosted by Bruce Tango. And on the alternate Thursdays at 8 p.m., tune in to Stirring the Cauldron, the Archive podcast. Every week at 9 p.m. Eastern, join me on Stirring the Cauldron Live. And then at 10 p.m., stick around for New Aeon Now with Lily Alley, Davron Michaels, and Christine Matza. Finally, to round out the night, join Dr. Kelly Renee Schutz on the Paranormal Encounters podcast. All this every Thursday, right here on Para-X.
Have you ever wondered what Jesus and his followers would say if you could receive their messages today? In his new book, Spirits Speak, Channeling Jesus and the Holy Spirits, channeler and author Barry Strohm answers those questions for you. Using his gift of spirit communication, he brings you messages from such Holy Spirits as Moses, John the Baptist, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Jesus, and even Mother Teresa and the Reverend Billy Graham. They discuss topics that are important for contemporary life in these troubled times. Spirits Speak, Channeling Jesus and the Holy Spirits is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other booksellers. Signed copies are available on the author's website, spiritspredict.com. After reading this book, you will never again say, "What would Jesus say or do?" Welcome back to Channeling History. Now, here are your hosts, Barry and Connie Strohm.
Okay, guys, welcome back. Connie, let's get on with it.
Okay, I've got two more questions out of the chat room. One about the black holes also. Do some beings from other planets travel through the black holes?
It is possible that light beings can travel through the black holes, yes.
Okay, and what age are you when you pass over? The same age that you were when you died, or are you younger?
No, generally when people are in image form on this side, they're generally in the mid-30s. If you stop and think about it, why would you want to maintain the body of an old person? And I know certainly I didn't want to maintain my body.
I don't have your problems, but I don't want to either. Okay, how do you believe the Palestinians and Israelis can learn to coexist? Do you think it's possible?
It's going to be very, very difficult. If the Palestinians and Israelis are going to coexist, each of them have to step back. Hamas, the Palestinians have got to understand that Hamas is not helping them to advance. The Palestinians have got to want peace, and the Israelis have got to want peace as well. Now, it's going to take some great statesmanship. The Israelis have got to stop advancing into Palestinian lands that they feel so strongly about. And the Palestinians have got to feel that they can advance and that they can better themselves as well. It's not impossible, but as long as the hatreds, such as Hamas is showing, exist, it's going to be very, very difficult. And Israelis have a big problem coming up with Iran. They're on the edge of having a nuclear weapon, and they are probably the one country that would not hesitate to use it.
What country do you see as the greatest danger to human development?
There are several. I would say that Russia, with their idiotic government, is a great problem, and with all the atomic weapons they have, they could stop human development. Iran, because of their radical religious beliefs, they could step up and use weapons of mass destruction. North Korea, I don't think anybody knows what North Korea is going to do or wants to even do. China is going to be very, very powerful. They have an economic engine over there that can alter human development. There are many, many countries actually that can have a large effect, especially if weapons of mass destruction are allowed to be had by many other countries.
Okay, you taught that time travel to the past was impossible. Now that you're on the other side, have you changed your mind?
Remember me saying that we had a lot of things that we didn't understand? When you're over here, you can look back in time. You can look forward based on circumstances that exist at the time that you look forward. The future is very fluid, but the past is fixed. So when you're over here, as I said, you can do many things that you cannot comprehend.
Okay. We have another question from a listener. Did you really run over people's feet with your chair when you disagreed with them?
Maybe.
Okay. Who are the coolest beings in the galaxy? And what is their technology like?
There are beings in the galaxy that are so advanced you cannot comprehend it. For instance, think of being able to travel from the limits of the Milky Way to Earth in less than what you call a week. There are a lot of really cool people. I find that the spider people are kind of neat. Of course, there are many people that would not agree with me about seeing a 6-foot spider. The blue aliens are nice. I like their color. Any person with a blue color is definitely very good, and they stand 7.5, 8 foot tall. So you see a lot of them. If you watch Star Wars movie, you would find that actually there are many beings in that movie that are very similar to what exists on other planets.
Why did you call the laws of science God?
Because I was stupid. I thought that the laws that we were coming up with were absolute. And when you think of absolute, you think of God. Yes, even very intelligent people make some stupid comments.
So now that you're on the other side, are any of the laws of science incorrect?
There are variations of almost every law of science. Gravity on Earth, that one's pretty good. Things drop straight down to the center. But once you start to get away from the gravitational effects of Earth, many things are not what you believe. There will be many, many years of learning. Hopefully you'll be able to learn enough, or humans will be able to learn enough that they can travel the stars. Because there will be a time that life is not livable on Earth.
That's what we've been told. What would you tell us about extraterrestrial life?
Well, as I said earlier, you'd be utterly amazed by it, all the variations of people. There are even light beings. There are individuals that are huge in size. There are spiders. There are many, many different types. I would say that there's actually hundreds of different types of space individuals. Many of them are advanced beyond your wildest imagination, and even beyond the imagination that I would have had when I was human.
When do you think there will be full disclosure?
Disclosure is starting. There are many, many people taking photographs. Social media is allowing these photographs to be seen. The government is trying their damnedest to keep the information from the people. They feel that if the people were to become commonplace with extraterrestrial life, that maybe it might affect the power that they have in their governments. Imagine if an individual that had maybe 6 or 7 times the intellectual ability of our governing individuals would come and make their existence known and would offer to try to help and lead humanity. It might be the end of much of the corruption that we have in government.
Wouldn't that be nice? Now that you are on the other side and can see more than you did here, what would you tell us about the creation of the universe?
We always thought of the concept of singularity and the concept of the Big Bang was how the universe was formed. And yes, that's part of it. What we didn't understand was how the gods of the universe combined their energies to help create a new universe. There was a universe that existed before the one that we now have. It was not capable of the advancements that the gods wanted, so they combined their energies, and in essence, a type of Big Bang took place. It's going to be a long time before your scientists really understand how the universe was created, and they won't understand until they accept the concept of gods.
Okay. Is there such a thing as singularity?
There is a type of singularity. When the gods did form the universe, it was kind of like stretching a rubber band in reverse. The matter was concentrated in a very small space, and when they combined their energies, you had this spectacular expansion. So, while singularity, as we talked of it, doesn't totally exist, a type of it does.
We have someone here who would like to know how many gods are in the universe?
How many galaxies are in the universe? There are many, many. There is actually a pecking order of the gods. Each galaxy has its own god, so I'm not sure how many galaxies exist, but there is a controlling energy in each of those galaxies.
Okay. What was it that got you so interested in the study of black holes?
It was something that nobody really understood. It was a mystery. Everybody realized the great energy of them. I thought that there was much that people could understand, and I thought that if you advanced the science of black holes, that you could use those conclusions to reach other conclusions that would help advance our knowledge. Black holes are an incredible energy, and when humans totally learn to understand them, there will in fact be lessons that will help them in their advancement.
Okay, we have another question from the chat room. Is there going to be a time when the aliens show themselves to humans?
Oh, absolutely. They've already been doing it for thousands of years. Take a look at the Nazca lines in Peru. That's evidence of aliens showing themselves to the people down there. It's just simply that modern humans can't face up to the fact that there may be beings that are a lot smarter than they are.
Okay. What has to take place for humans to learn to love and get along with others?
That is what they would refer to as the $24 question. For humans to learn to love and get along, they have to accept the existence of an energy that you refer to as God, Allah, however you want to refer to it, a universal energy that teaches love and getting along.
Yeah. Okay, as you know, we try to pass on the messages of Jesus. In your opinion, what can we do to be more successful and bring more people to know God?
Well, that's a difficult question, too. It is very difficult for scientists and people that are involved in your modern technologies to believe in something they can't see or prove. I know that certain healings and miracles take place. I think that what you have to do is simply try to explain the realities. The fact that you're speaking with spirits every week, multiple spirits. If an individual wants to try to advance their understanding and faith, all they have to do is pay attention to some of your work. There are other people out there speaking of the miracles of God. They just simply have to learn to understand the realities of what are taking place around them.
Yeah. What's your opinion about artificial intelligence? And can it evolve to the point where it controls humans?
Yes, it can. Scientists have to be very, very careful about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence can perhaps be controlled by other individuals or even other species that they don't see. Artificial intelligence has to be maintained as a helper for human intelligence. They can't let it evolve to the point that it is possible to lose control of it. And it is possible that it evolves to such a point, and the scientists don't understand that it can be utilized against them. Keep in mind that there are individuals from other planets with great abilities. It is not inconceivable that they could control the artificial intelligence without humans ever understanding it. Now, bear in mind that the creatures, I should not say creatures, the individuals from other planets are supposed to help humans learn and advance. I don't discount the possibility that there could be a rogue alien out there that would use their abilities to try to control some of the human functions. So humans have got to totally understand the artificial intelligence that they create.
Okay, what law of science will humans realize is not correct as their intelligence increases?
The concept of time travel is one. I never thought that was possible. Maybe it's only possible from this side. But it is possible for us to see the past. It is possible to see the future, as I said before, of the events that are taking place at that time. But since events in the future change the course of histories, travel into the future I do not see as being practical. You're going to find out that the laws of light that we think are so solid in our learning, you're going to find that there's variations. You're going to find out that there's a lot of things concerning human DNAs that you don't understand. You're going to think that there are many things that humans can accomplish, but you have no clue what humans will be capable of accomplishing in the future.
Okay, got more chat room questions. I think they were looking forward to you coming tonight. Is the center of the Earth hollow?
No.
So
The center of the Earth is molten metal.
okay, then that means there's no beings living there. Let's see here.
You asked me two different questions.
Oh, okay.
You asked me if the center of the Earth is hollow. There are underground facilities on your planet where there are people living from other planets. They've been helping humans from there for many years, Antarctica, for instance. But they're not living in the center of the planet.
Okay. In 2011, you said that philosophy is dead. Can you explain your statement, and has your opinion changed on that?
For many people, philosophy is dead. Many people are just feel that technology is the only answer for the future. You can see that in the decay of morals for many individuals. I felt that technology had overtaken philosophy, and I felt that much that was to be learned about philosophical thinking had been learned. I didn't truly understand the complexities of the human brain or of their reactions to different situations. I would hope that in the future people would try to understand philosophy and maintain a balance between a philosophical approach and the technological approach.
What will you tell us about the one world order?
There are individuals out there that are trying to take control. They want untold power. They have got wealth beyond belief. They are trying to change things into the way they think the world should be affected. I think that individuals are catching on, and I have great faith that there will be a time that individuals can live peacefully together and not under the control of individuals.
Okay. What is your opinion on climate change?
Once you're over here, you truly do understand that humans are contributing to bad things happening with the climate. What you must understand, the climate change has longer term effects. The Earth is actually fairly resilient and has the ability to heal itself. But humans seem to have the ability to pollute the oceans, the water, the air, faster than the Earth can recharge. There will be a time where you'll reach critical mass with pollution, but it would take many years to approach that.
Okay. In 2006, you asked the question, in a world that is in chaos politically, socially, and environmentally, how can the human race sustain another 100 years? Now that you're on the other side, can you answer your own question?
I think that statement is actually more apropos today than it was when I spoke it in 2006. Technology has put weapons of mass destruction into the hands of people that should never have them. It has taught individuals how to pollute. It is, in my opinion, you still have a world of chaos out there, socially and environmentally. Individuals have got to understand that there is a limit to what the planet is going to take. There's a limit to what humans can take. There is a limit to the brutality that will allow humans to evolve. So I think my statement's still pretty accurate, to be honest with you. all the human race has to do is smarten up if they want to make it for the next 100 years.
Okay. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been most educational. Do you have a final message for our listeners?
Yes. Thank you for allowing me to expound upon my thoughts from this side. Many things have changed, obviously, since I'm over here. I see that many things on your side have not. And sadly, I wish that individuals would understand the simple concept of getting along and how that concept of getting along is required if they're going to continue to evolve and advance. I came up with many ideas in my lifetime. I associated with brilliant people. I thought that I understood much. Once I got over here, I understand how little I didn't understand. Humans have got to step back and understand how much they don't understand. They have to understand that getting along is a very simple concept. If they don't get along, they need to understand that their lives could be ended. Evolution could end. They have to take care of the planet. They don't need to do radical things to change the way of things, of how they live, how they recycle, how they understand the planet. But they must take actions. They must have a long-term plan. And they got to understand that if they abuse the planet on which they stand, they won't have anything to stand upon. So thank you for listening to me. I hope I didn't bore you. I know many people accuse me of being a bore, but oh well. So thank you. Goodbye. If you want to speak to me again, I would be more than happy. Okay. Next week, we're going to interview the spirit of John D. Rockefeller, famous industrialist and philanthropist. As you can tell, we've been trying to talk to some of the great industrialists and get their ideas, especially how they chose to help others with their great wealth. You can submit questions or recommendations for future shows through our email, channelinghistory on parax@gmail.com. My current book's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's called Spirit Speak, Channeling Jesus and the Holy Spirits. I'm sure you would enjoy it if you took time to read it. It's on Kindle for $2.99. Signed copies are only available on my website, spiritspredict.com, or wordsofgodthenandnow.com. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's show. I know I did. I thought Stephen was a great guest, and I thought a lot of his ideas were wonderful. So thank you for listening. Join us on Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the PowerX Radio Network.
I'd also like to thank everyone for joining us. Have yourselves a wonderful week, and God bless you all.
Thanks for listening to Channeling History. Tune in again next week for another lecture.